What's going on, motorsports fans? This is Jared here with the Bearded Garagistas. Always with me is my brother Brett.
How you doing?
And we're going over both IndyCar races, one at Barber, one at St. Pete, on this show. Welcome back. Okay, so what we're going to go over is we're going to go over Barber, which was in Alabama, and St. Pete, first two races of the IndyCar season. And we're going to go over them top to bottom of some things that stood out, maybe some thinkers for the rest of the season and how things are going to go. And I really got to start out by saying this is a stacked field. This is insane. It's unreal, the names. You have people like Hinchcliffe, Daly, Sato, Pagano finishing out of the top 10. Finishing out of the top 10. That's unreal. Like, it's amazing because you can go down the list of drivers and the first 15 on the list are competitive to possibly win that race. I don't know if I could ever remember. You know more about the history of IndyCar than I do. Has IndyCar ever had a stacked grid like it has this year?
No, not like this. No, nowhere close to like this. And I mean, even the rookies, like there's 3 rookies in the field, and they're massive names. Jimmy Johnson, Grosjean, which the announcers in IndyCar just cannot pronounce his name. It's hysterical. And Scott McLaughlin, like, I mean, just champions, because Grosjean has won, in feeder series. You can call him a champion. It's way up, and several podiums in F1, put to the back of the field in F1 towards the end of his career. But that's not even entirely his fault. That's just how F1 is. If you're not a top team, you can't win. And that's why I love that he went to IndyCar.
What is it about IndyCar that drags people in from other series?
You have a chance to win. It's close racing. It's open wheel racing. So the energy is high. You're going fast and you're competitive. You can race close, wheel to wheel. And you know what? The IndyCar marshals and stewards let them race.
We're going to get into that because I have an issue. There's
moves in F1 that everything is a penalty, and in IndyCar it's a racing incident.
Well, I have an issue with a little bit of that because of the Bourdais incident and how pretty much he's been racing in the first 2 races of the season, but we'll get into it. Let's start with who started on pole, and I believe it was Pato O'Ward, if you can correct me if I was wrong. Mm-hmm. He was dumb fast at Barber. He came right out of the blocks. I guess he likes the car with a very loose setup. It kind of works for him to slide through these corners. He set a blistering pace, and he is technically only in his second year, right? Maybe third.
Yeah, but he did some IndyCar, and then
but he left and then he came back.
Yeah, Red Bull showed interest, so then he went over to Super Formula, and he did like one race, I think, in F2, filling in for someone on a race ban. I think it was for Gunathan, of course. And it just didn't work out with the super license points, and Red Bull gave up on him real quick. Comes back to IndyCar, and
Red Bull say it ain't so.
Yeah, well, it also goes to how super license points, the FIA really favors their own feeder series. And that kind of hamstrung his career getting to F1, but he's got a bright future in IndyCar.
Oh, of course he does. I really think he does. And I think that and we talked about the stacked field, but I really feel like even though it's a stacked field, there's a lot of young names that you would classify in that stacked category. You got Award, Palou, VK. Those are racers that Herta. You would normally say they're only in the series for 2 or 3 years, and some of them are even on the, when they come in there as rookies are impressive. And you're like, wow, it really stands out to you that the young names in the sport are going to come up quick. So the race gets underway after Award, sets that pole lap in the qualifiers. And Newgarden comes over the top of the hill and loses it in probably the worst place that you could possibly lose the car, over the top of that hill where it's a blind hill. They come around the corner. They're gassing it because it's a straight, but they come over that crest of that hill. He touched the grass. He spun it around. I'm fairly certain that that mistake was all on him, because he was like, I lost it coming over the hill. And that aero screen that they put into place, it saved what's his name's life. Whose car did it hit? I want to say, was it Hinchcliffe?
No, it was Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Ryan Hunter-Reay. I knew it was a yellow car. I couldn't remember which one, but Ryan Hunter-Reay hits him right on the aero screen, and he says later on that it saved his life. So another showing of how the safety of motorsport has come leaps and bounds over the years. Because, I mean, God knows if these were the Indy cars of old, that would have cracked him right in the helmet.
Oh yeah, it could have been really, really bad. Most likely saved his life. Almost certainly saved his life. But that incident, I mean, Newgarden, a Penske driver, knocked out so many of the Penske rivals' top drivers. Herta got knocked out. Ryan Hunter-Reay was out. Hinchcliffe was out.
Are you hinting that this was sabotage?
No. I'm just saying three of the four Andretti drivers were hit in the first incident, the first lap.
Yeah.
It took out a Carlin driver. It took out Rosenquist, who's McLaren
second driver.
ROSP. I mean, he literally took out half their competitors.
Yeah, that was a pretty spectacular crash. I think it was just somehow a champion got caught out on cold tires at the beginning of a race, coming over the crest of the hill when the car gets light, and spun it around. And I'm surprised, because another person had done that, coming over the crest of the hill. And God bless Jimmy Johnson's little heart. God bless him. He's trying. And I'm not sure he's going to make it through the end of the season. I know I talked to you about this, what was it, last week? But it's looking pretty rough for old Jimmy. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I was literally about to ask you if you didn't bring it up. Is he really going to make it the whole season? I don't know. I mean, we could talk more about it with St. Pete, because that was another rough day for him. And you can say all you want that it's going to take time for him to get used to the car, but I mean, the other rookies aren't having the races that he's having, and McLaughlin was coming from closed wheel to open wheel too. Right. So,
but it wasn't in a circle. Jimmy Johnson's come. Well, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, they got road courses now, I guess, but you could maybe it's to a testament to how much the supercars that McLaughlin drives, the open wheel cars, they are, true, independent suspension, things like that. They're race cars. And that's, I guess, what the next gen is going to go into in NASCAR. But you look at the NASCAR cars now, and even though they race on the road courses, the cars are just so different. And I think that maybe what we're seeing, and this is complete speculation, but I think maybe what we're seeing is, a person coming from NASCAR in a car that is set up to do 200 miles an hour, 3 inches off of somebody's bumper in a circle. And it's not really meant for the type of racing. So now that he's put into this situation where the car gets light going over hills, and he's got one of his spins, I think it was at St. Pete, was just disgusting. He came in way too hot into the corner. It's almost like he forgot to brake for where the braking point was for the turn. So, I mean, I love Jimmy Johnson, 7-time champion. I didn't like when he was winning all them champions back to back to back. I mean, the same thing with Hamilton and all these other ones that do it consecutively.
That's when I stopped watching NASCAR. I mean, how many times can someone win a championship in a row?
Exactly. So, but I love the guy. He's a good dude. I mean, I never had a problem with the way he raced. They were just dominant, and I really want to see him make those improvements. I mean, he made a speed improvement from Barber to St. Pete, but the incident improvement didn't happen at all. So hopefully he can figure himself out and get going. But I guess we'll see. I don't think I think he makes it through to the end of the season, but I don't think he does a second season. I think he's gonna
unless he like absolutely shines on the ovals, and then maybe like moving forward, he's like an oval specialist that comes in.
Yeah,
he could do a deal with Grosjean. Grosjean does the
that would be an interesting team. Let
Jimmy
Grosjean,
Johnson does the ovals.
Yeah, that would be an interesting team if we let Grosjean race the circuit and then Jimmy Johnson on the ovals. That would be ridiculous. Well, let's see how Jimmy Johnson does on the ovals. Maybe he shocks us. Maybe he wins an Indy 500.
That'd be crazy. I want to see Grosjean do some ovals next year too.
I don't know if he's going to do it, honestly, with his family has already asked him not to get back in the car, and he has to do it because he's a race car driver. That's what they do. But, I mean, if your family's asking you that, I think the ovals is where the majority of the danger in IndyCar is. Don't get me wrong, the road courses are scary and sketchy, but, slamming into the wall at 200 miles an hour is not something that, he's somebody that's accustomed to, and possibly putting himself into that position after what we saw last year. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening. So yeah. I was sitting there watching the race at Barber, and I was really at a point where I was like, you know what? Who's the most underrated driver on the grid? Because last year I watched, and I already know who I'm going to pick. And I already had the name in mind when I thought of the question. And last year I watched the same guy, and this year I watched the same guy. So I'm going to let Brett answer his first. And I want to see if he has the same as mine. So who is the most underrated driver on the grid? And to let you guys know that I didn't give Brett any warning that I was going to ask him this question. So he's he's sweating right now, and he's trying to think. So I figure I just let you guys know that there was no prep for this. So Brett, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I do. And my first answer is you suck. And there really was no prep. And the second you did it, I'm like, he's going to throw this to me first, isn't he? But I do have a driver just because I love IndyCar and I kind of really like this guy. And I think he is underrated. And it's Connor Daly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I could see that. And, we spoke about him being part of the stacked field and a good name and a good racer. And I mean, he's consistent. He does well. I can get behind Connor Daly, but mine was Graham Rahal. That man is consistently in the top 10, sometimes in the top 5. He's always in the fight, in a fray somewhere. He's putting pressure on somebody. And I really feel like in Barber, he shined. In St. Pete, he did well. All last year, he was always at the top of the grid. You never had to look for his name. He was usually that American flag number, and it's, within the top 10. And I feel like he, in my opinion, is the most underrated driver on the grid. Consistent. I mean, he doesn't win races. He's not always out front, but I think you could also attribute that to he's running his own team. It's a family thing, name behind him kind of thing. If he was a Penske driver, or a Ganassi driver, does he, push to the front of the field, and does he win some races? Because I think he's a hell of a driver.
Yeah, I mean, you can really see the difference between him and his teammate. He's the guy who is going to be up there consistently getting the points. And then you got Sato, who's like either going to dominate or he's going to crash out, right? So he can go and he can win the Indy 500 and be the reigning champion for the Indy 500, and then go and in the first, couple of races, just be nowhere or into the side of people's cars, because Sato is just that kind of driver. He's just going to go for it. Oh, wait, you gave me an inch? I'm going to squeeze my little car in there.
Yeah, he was, and he did that at St. Pete too. I'm not going to lie to you. Sato made some moves in St. Pete, and we'll get to that it were just, I didn't see that the hole was probably there, and he got the elbows out and made the move. And another person who did that was Sebastian Bourdais. And I know he's a champion, and the announcers love him because they called his move on Pato O'Ward, they called it a hip check. And personally, I saw a full block pass, and I thought that was worthy of a penalty because that pass on Pato O'Ward was disgusting. Do you know which one I'm talking about in Barber?
No, I'm trying
coming around the left-hand turn. So they're coming around the left-hand turn. Pato O'Ward's on the outside. So Sebastian Bourdais throws it up the inside. And I don't think if Pato O'Ward probably went straight or stopped, I think Sebastian Bourdais probably blows all the way through and onto the gravel, because it was just they bumped right tires. They pushed Pat O'Ward all the way off the track, and I just didn't like it. And I understand that they get a little bumpy in IndyCar, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the forceful passing, but there has to be some kind of skill to it. And I feel like he just like threw a wing and a prayer. And honestly, I'm surprised that one of the cars didn't either have a flat or have an issue or have anything broken, because if there was one thing in my mind, especially in that race, that warranted a penalty, it was that pass on Pat O'Ward. So, I mean, and frankly, he was that way in St. Pete too. And, we'll talk about that now. He is just as pushy in St. Pete as he was in Barber. So, I mean, I don't know if I don't remember him always being so aggressive and so pushy. And I understand that he's got that fire in him, and that's great. But I hope I don't see this as a regular thing with him for the rest of the year. I want to see his driving skill come out. I don't care to see him having to make those kind of passes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's trying to take full advantage of getting the chance to be back into IndyCar, and he's trying to show that he can still be up there and vie for wins. So I don't know, maybe it'll couple races to settle down and be the Bourdais that he can be. I mean, he's fast. He's a good driver. I'm happy he's back in IndyCar. I hear what you're saying, but overall, I'm more happy that he's there than concerned about him being pushy at the start.
All right. Well, if you were Pat O'Ward, you'd probably think something different.
He's a big boy.
All right. Well, other than Barber being a beautiful racetrack, I just want to talk about, 2 or 3 more things in this.
Wait, hold on. How many times are they going to freaking talk about the museum?
Bro,
like, I understand that like they got to like advertise, but if they mention that damn museum one more time,
they're putting on a show, man. You got to understand that it's a business, right? Motorsports is a business. IndyCar is a business. It's all a business. And I mean, you watch a lot of the other races and they do like, Formula One or even endurance racing with IMSA. They show the track in the beginning. The announcer might talk a little bit about the surrounding area, but I think what IndyCar is really trying to do is cement themselves as like an American sport. And they're introducing people who are outside of the country and possibly watching to the American landscape and what else is in that city. And I think it's an open invite to like, come to the track, see what we have to offer here. This is what you can see while you're at the track, kind of thing like that. I think it's a sales pitch. And wherever you can fit it in the broadcast, I don't think it's a bad idea. You think that's almost a free advertisement in a way, to try to get somebody to come out to the racetrack without explicitly saying, come out to my racetrack. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that. It just seemed like it was more like it was a lot. That's all I'm saying. It was a lot.
You didn't like the marketing pitch is what you're saying.
Make your pitch. Make your pitch, 3, 4, 5 times, 10. I mean, come on.
I don't remember it being that much. I mean, I was watching the stream.
I could be exaggerating a little bit, but I feel like
just
I was
a little
watching
bit
the stream as well. But no, but I kind of feel like every single time they came back from a commercial break, hey, the Barber Museum.
All right. Well,
my goodness.
All right. So we'll let them know. But let's talk about, we already talked about how well Grosjean did in finishing in the top 10. And I really kind of think we talked about enough about that, with him in the rookie. So we'll let you know that Grosjean did finish in the top 10 at Barber. He was very impressive. I don't have much more to say about that because we kind of talked about it in the earlier part of this show. Do you have anything to add on Grosjean finishing in the top 10?
I would say that he was also stellar in quali as well. And it just goes to show you how fast of a driver. Stellar.
That's a beautiful word.
He's a fast driver. And I think that given a few more races, he has the chance of, I don't know, like I kind of feel like he really has a chance to do something in IndyCar. The problem is IndyCar's so stacked, and I wish that he was in a bigger team. I really wish I could see what he could do in a bigger team. And maybe he'll get there.
Yeah, maybe makes that impression this year, and a bigger team kind of goes, hey, you know what? Let's make a run at this bad boy.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the top 3 because I think it was partially surprising and partially not. Palou in his maiden voyage for Ganassi Racing takes the win, and that's the surprising part to me. I knew he was fast, and they said he was really fast. I did not expect a win to come out of it. Second was
Not
Will
the first race.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It just seems like he fits well inside that team. And I feel like every once in a while a team will pick up somebody that just really clicks. And you put them in the seat like a Lego piece and it's just click and it's perfectly circled to cup to their butt cheeks, just like a Lego guy. You know what I'm talking about. And I feel like he fits that position really well. And I think that I think we're going to see a lot more wins and a lot more good things coming from him as a Ganassi driver. And then next up was Will Power. This was a little bit of a surprise to me. Will Power's always been fast, but last year he had his struggles. We all know a lot of mental mistakes.
He's had his struggles for like 5 years.
Yeah, but a lot of those mistakes I find to be mental mistakes. He gets himself into a high pressure situation and then he kind of crumbles under it. And that was just recently because we all know that Will Power is a fantastic driver. So you're like, well, maybe he was in a slump and that snowball kind of gets rolling downhill and the ball gets bigger and the problem gets bigger. But I feel like he made a statement at Barber and coming in second, even though he wasn't able to reel in Palou, which, I mean, the guy was on a God race. Sometimes people are in the zone and you can't touch them. But I feel like his second place at Barber really was like, hey, I'm back. I can still do this. I'm here. And he's, just cements himself as somebody to be feared. Got nothing to say on that, huh?
No, I do. I mean, because, you gotta know Newgarden wasn't there. Newgarden was out of the race, and I don't know. I really don't know what to say about Penske's lineup. I mean, he's got fast champions, but I kind of wish that one of those drivers was a little bit younger. I mean, he's got experienced fast champions, but I think at any time one of those guys could just start to decline and Penske, can't compete the way that they should compete.
When do you think Penske starts looking into the younger blood? You think
I don't know because he just signed Power up for like what, another 2-3 years? Power's locked up now until like 24, 25, I think. Newgarden is young. I'll give him that. I don't think he needs to get rid of Newgarden. Pagenaud, I think, has to show something. The problem is that they're marketable in their home countries and this and that. I mean, I'm surprised that he extended Power's contract so early in the season. That's what I'm surprised. And I'm curious to see what happens with Pagenaud.
And if you listen to our last episode, we talked about how Scott Dixon came in third, and he did. And I'll reiterate that I don't believe in any way that him coming in third at Barber in the first race of the season, where he took 3 wins back to back to back at the beginning of last season, is a failure. I feel like it actually cements him as a place that he's going to make another run for it. Do I think it's like in hand? By no means. Do I think that he's got it wrapped up and he's a favorite? I don't even think he's a favorite after the first 2 races. What I've seen, yes, he's competitive, but I don't even see Dixon as a favorite to win. To be completely honest with you, I don't see many favorites to win, period. I think Newgarden looks strong, Herta looks strong, but that was at St. Pete. We didn't really get to see what Newgarden and Herta was going to do at Barber because they crashed out. So what's really exciting about this year is right now, after 2 races, we still have no idea who are the front runners, who are the best, who's got the momentum. It's still anybody's game. 2 races.
It's just too stacked. It's just too stacked, and Dixon may even have a tough go of it because of his teammate Palou. I mean, if he ends up having a stellar year, you got no idea what kind of impact that could have on Dixon. I mean, you can't say that there's like, a Hamilton or a Verstappen where they have a chance, and nobody else is going to be vying for that championship. The IndyCar championship is wide open.
So it's going to be impressive. And the only other thing that I really had down on my list, and then we'll get into the St. Pete a little bit more, was Rossi. And we'll actually lead into St. Pete with that and say that he did not look very good at Barber. And he had a bad decision coming out of the pits trying to defend against Ray Hall in St. Pete and ended up popping a valve stem and getting a flat tire when he probably could have just conceded that corner, or even not even conceding the corner if he would have given enough room to Rahal. That pushes Rahal to the outside for the left-hander, and he would have been fine. So I'm not sure if he's starting to feel the pressure, and now he's starting that downward spiral into a slump. But I really hope he figures it out soon, because if this is any inclination to what happened last year, I can't deal with Rossi 2 years in a row having a rough season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I worry that he's putting too much pressure on himself. I think he's almost come out saying that this year he needs to be vying for the championship, if not winning the championship. And I think I worry that it's all he thinks about is performance and championship, and I need to be doing better. And yeah, I mean, a professional athlete needs to be thinking that way. But when you're coming off of a year that he had, and even the year before that wasn't great, he missed the Indy 500, win the Indy 500 through like his engine basically is the reason why he lost that to Pagenaud 2 years ago. But yeah, I think he's on a bit of a slide downwards. I hope that he can turn it around. If not, Andretti's stable is going to be led by Herta.
Yeah. So St. Pete, I want to talk about how unique this racetrack is. I don't know of anyone off the top of my head. I know some that are on old air strips, Sebring. I know some that are street courses, Laguna Seca. I don't know too many that are airstrips and road courses. And I really like St. Pete, man. I know there's not a ton of passing, but these IndyCar guys, they make it happen. I love the long straights where they can use that push to pass and run down the person in front of them, get that nice run off the corner. I really enjoy St. Pete's racetrack, and it's a beautiful track in my opinion. So and speaking on that and how awesomely unique that St. Pete is, I want to talk about Pagenaud's ridiculous livery, because I think he looked like a chocolate bar wrapper. I mean, tell me you didn't think of a chocolate bar wrapper when you were watching that thing.
I didn't, but now that you say it, it's like the Willy Wonka, I got the golden ticket.
That's what I'm saying, right, dude? I mean, if you didn't see his livery, look up Pagenaud's livery from St. Pete. It is literally chrome gold. It's like, it's the shiniest gold. It's, I don't know. I didn't like it. Did you like it? Oh, he likes it. Do you like it? Did we lose him?
You're kind of choppy, so I'm in and out over here. But
do you like Pagenaud's livery? Did you like it?
I'm torn because I'm not in love with his usual livery. So
yeah, he looks like Mr. Goodbar.
I kind of get excited whenever he changes it because at least it's something different.
He kind of stuck with the same kind of candy wrapper livery row that he went from Mr. Goodbar to.
No matter what, it's shiny, right? So his usual one is like a bright neon green type of yellow, and then this one gold. But then what he also usually has, I forget, it's like DX something, but it's black and chrome. So no matter what, Pagenaud has like this ridiculously shiny car.
That's great.
Bright or shiny.
Breaking news, the Jaguars select Clemson's Trevor Lawrence, #1 pick. All right, so let's get back to it. I want to talk about something else.
That really surprising. Like you had to interrupt this for that.
I guess it wasn't really
surprising. Everybody's known that for over a year.
Well, I'm a Jets fan, and it hurts. So let's just change the subject.
All right, let's not go down this road.
No, let's not go down this road. So let's go. What about Ed Jones losing his mind at the end of the race? And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but he ran into the back of Pato O'Ward, and three turns later, he spins the car around, running into the back of somebody else. And I'm not sure what happened to Ed Jones here, because he's normally a pretty consistent guy, and I like him as a racer, and he's a good guy, but literally just straight lost his mind. And I'm not sure if this was like I don't know whose team he's on. Oh, is Ed Jones a Penske driver? No, right?
No, Ed Jones is in Dale Coyne, Sullivan, Vassar Sullivan. Dale Coyne. How many? He's like throwing out everybody's name, bro. No. He's filling the seat for Ferrucci. That was where Ferrucci was.
Right. And that sequence of corners was disgusting, and caused that heart in your chest to go into your throat moment with Herta, because that allowed the field to stack back up on that yellow and allowed Pagenaud and Newgarden to take another run at Herta. So that was a little stressful, but I found it funny because I was watching a race and I remember like, all right, he ran into the back of a Ward. That was a little interesting. He late braking, maybe missed his point. It happens. And then 3 turns later, he just dumps the car. It was pretty impressive display of fuckery from Ed Jones. So this race kind of finished in an interesting way.
By the way, just because you're a dick, he drives for Dale Coyne Racing with Vassar Sullivan, asshole.
I couldn't help myself, man. You just started
throwing nailed it off the top of my head.
You
by
did,
the way.
But it was just funny to me that you started just throwing names out. I mean, like it just like every name that came to your mind, you just started throwing. And yes, it's the name of the team, but it's really funny to have such a long name. Okay, so so the top 5 for this race and was dominated by Colton Herta. He led pretty much damn near the whole thing. Herta,
you know how many laps? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, the race was 100 laps, I think. I would probably
97.
He led 97 laps?
97 laps. The
out
only
of
time that he didn't lead out of 100. The first pit stop, he pitted and he lost the lead for 3 laps and then took it over and held it for the rest of the lap.
97 laps in the lead. That is some pressure. And you know what? He's being chased down by Newgarden and Pagenaud, and the dude's got ice in his veins. Ice in his veins. Fuck the rest of the top 5. Let's get into this. And when Herta showed you that dominant, unshakable race that he had, is this the beginning of an era? And I say that in 2 different ways. Everyone knows how well and how well Colton Herta drives, how talented he is, and the future champion that he most likely will be. But is this the start of that this year? So that's my first question. And my second question would be, is this when we start seeing the young guys start taking it to the old guys? Is this when we see not a usual name take the championship? Kind of like how Newgarden did when he was, a couple of years ago, where kind of came out of nowhere, boom, championship. Do we see that again with Herta? Is that something that we see again with these new rookies? What do you think?
It's getting there. I mean, the thing is if you compare IndyCar to F1, F1 is all about extremely young drivers because there's so much computers and sensors and this and that experience matters, but not as much as an IndyCar. An IndyCar experience is massively important, and that's why you get racers that Will Power. I mean, he's 40 and just signed up for another 2, 3, 4 years. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's like a 2-3 year deal. But so just age is very much different than F1. So Herta has some time. If he doesn't get, picked up by a big F1 team and Andretti lets him go over to Europe, which is probably extremely unlikely.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how ballsy Andretti was to say what he said. And do you think even if Formula One came calling, do you think Andretti would want or let somebody like Colton Herta go?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, Andretti himself, Michael, not Mario, did a similar deal where he was on loan. He did an exchange basically to get to McLaren, and he was still contracted to race IndyCar, and then went a couple years, or I was hoping would be a couple years, over to F1. So what Andretti is hoping for is a couple things. One is, a big F1 team calls, and Herta's still contracted with Andretti, but through Andretti gets a deal with an F1 team, and both Herta and Andretti get paid. And the more that, if Herta gets that deal and goes over to Europe and becomes a massive success, then that just helps Andretti. The other thing is just talking about it, right? You got both Mario and Michael Andretti out there in the news talking about Herta and links to F1. You know what I mean? That just doesn't happen willy nilly. Like they're out there on a media campaign trying to get their driver in the headlines, and it worked. Everybody in racing is talking about it. You got Will Buxton freaking driving to the airport to go to Portugal for the next F1 race, and on the way there, he films a YouTube video, throws it up on YouTube, and first off, one take, no edits. Something like me and Jared do all the time, but a lot of YouTube people can't do it. And he just he just flows and is talking about how it's not going to happen, how Herta's not going to get to F1, and all the reasons why. But in the end, it doesn't matter. It helps Andretti. And if Herta stays in IndyCar and ends up dominating, it's great. What's going to happen is towards the end of his career, you'll end up going like, because I think all the time, well, what could Dixon have done in F1, right? A 6-time world champion, possibly 7 if he wins this year. Like, what could he have done in F1? And the answer always is going to be with F1. It depends on what car he's in.
Yeah, that's pretty shitty to think that somebody who could be so dominating in one sport can be so shitty in another. But I mean, Jimmy Johnson. So let's get back to the so you got Newgarden's in second, Pagenaud's third, Harvey in fourth, and Dixon in fifth. I think everyone could say that nobody really saw Harvey coming in fourth this race. When you think of the powerhouses, you don't think of that name. However, he was really good last year. He had some surprise finishes last year in the top. And I mean, when he's on, he's on. But I he kind of snuck up into the top 4 in this race, and I was proud of the guy. But Dixon came in fifth, picked up some valuable points. You're a fan of Harvey?
Yeah, I think that there's a good chance that he could do something.
There's a good chance he might do something. And then Newgarden up there, and this remains to be seen because the 1-2 at St. Pete was knocked out of Barber. So I think the third race of the season will answer a lot of questions for us. I think the third race of the season is going to show us which teams are clicking, because now you can kind of put a little bit of a pattern, pending nobody crashes out. But you can put a little bit of a pattern and see kind of who, is not, going to be the winner, but you could at least see who are the teams that are usually going to be pushing to the front. Because normally when those teams are clicking, they kind of stay that way throughout the year, especially on the road courses. The ovals are always that weird, curveball in IndyCar, but I'm really excited for the rest of this year. And it's really weird that you come off of such a garbage year like 2020, and you come into a year like 2021, and it seems like all levels of motorsport has really popped off. Sebring was amazing. Daytona was amazing for IMSA. NASCAR is like we've talked before. It seems like it's going to be one of the best fights in NASCAR this year. IndyCar is ridiculously competitive. The field is stacked, and with LMD and LMDH and hypercar and all that stuff coming down the pipe, endurance racing is just on the rise. So, coming from a show who started,
you even got F1 with like Verstappen and Hamilton. There's actually a chance for a close championship race. Oh my goodness, what is this year?
Exactly. So coming from a show that started because we wanted to talk more motorsports and worldwide sports and kind of get those racing out there and just kind of shoot the shit about it. I'm really excited to see how competitive and how awesome motorsports is, kicking off 2021. I'm really excited for the season. So that's all we got for you. Really want to thank you guys for joining us again. Like, subscribe, 5 stars, comment. If you want to hear us talk about something, let us know. We really enjoy putting these here out for you guys, and we have a lot of fun. Right now we don't have a ton of listeners, and I know that, but you know what? It's really fun to shoot the shit for 30 to 32 an hour with your brother or your buddies and kind of listen to motorsports and kind of hear what everybody else has to say. So we're not gospel on this. We have our opinions just like everybody else, and we're curious to hear yours. I know we get a lot of interaction on Instagram from some of our fans who pretty much watch the show and listen to it regularly, and we really appreciate you guys. So we will talk to you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.